Today on Locked On Canadiens, Kaiden Guhle's first goal is Brendan Gallagher back to the way he once was. Samuel Montembeault has an excellent game, and the power play is still not fixed. All of that plus mailbag questions on today's Locked On Canadiens.
Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 715. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline remains the best place to go for all your betting needs. They have you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. And tonight's game between the Montreal Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres ended with a goal who we still don't know who scored it. My name is Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Scott Matla, who I must thank because he allowed me the night off to bake cookies with my mom on the day before she left for home. So, Scott, thank you very much. And how are you this evening?
I am good, and in terms of who that goal belongs to, NHL.com is still attributing it to Josh Anderson, despite the fact it very clearly hit either off of Brendan Gallagher's stick or off of Christian Dvorak in the front of the net. But, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I don't care if puck's in the net, and the Habs escaped Buffalo with a win that they don't usually get when it comes to, NHL.com. Oh, nope, it's still there. It's still Josh Anderson. I thought they had removed it for a second. I was going to be like, wow, that's in real time. The Canadiens don't often go into Buffalo and come out with a win. So this was a nice game to see. And the story of the night is Samuel Montembeault was phenomenal in all aspects tonight. He made routine saves look hard and hard saves look routine. He was absolutely everything the Canadiens needed, making 43 saves on 45 shots. Just a really strong bounce back performance in net for him. He gets his second win of the year in his third start, and Montreal now goes home. Or yes, I believe they go home, or they're going to St. Louis. One of the two things. They play the Blues on Saturday. Another tough test, but this is a nice win for the Canadiens in a battle of teams at different points in their rebuilds.
I want to say that they are going to St. Louis. I don't know. This is Locked On Tired, folks. We are going to get it together in time for November. We promise. We do. We promise. In the meantime, this game, one of our resources that we always go to during games, before games, after games, Natural Stat Trick. One of my favorite things that they do is they have a heat map. And they show the chances that the Canadiens have, where there's, or each team has, where they're scoring from, and how essentially how dangerous they are, like where the most potent shots are coming from. And at some point this game, I want to say it was midway through the second, the heat map showed essentially a giant, like extremely hot blob just directly in the, basically in the goal mouth, essentially. That goes to show, one, how much more the Canadiens have to do to shore up their defense, but two, how well Samuel Montembeault played. Now, I think with the defense, we often praise it, and I think we praise it because we have pretty low expectations. It's not that the team plays badly. I think it's that this is what they're capable of. You've got the emerging guys like Jordan Harris or Kaiden Guhle or Arbor Jacki. You can't forget him. And then you've got just guys who are not terrible, but they're not stud defensemen. They're not superstars. They're nothing elite. And they play to their level or even more. It's just that as a whole, I find that the defense, we talked about this before, it's a question mark. It's going to remain a question mark until they have all of their depth and their stars into place. And hopefully 2 to 3 years from now, when they start making the playoffs, they figured it out. I think one thing that I did notice this game as well was Brendan Gallagher played really well. Seems to have been drinking from the fountain of youth. A lot of people remarked that the rumors of his demise have been greatly exaggerated. And I think that's true. I do think, though, as a whole, the things that are always plaguing the Canadiens are things that they still need to work on, like the power play.
The power play is atrocious, and I just want to touch on the defense real quick. David Savard, he wasn't above water possession-wise, but this might be one of the best games I've seen him play in a Canadiens uniform. Collected a pair of assists on the last 2 goals of the game there. Played a ton of minutes, and that means Kaiden Guhle played a ton of minutes, shorthanded and otherwise. And again, at the top of the possession charts, just Jordan Harris and Jonathan Kovacevic, just the most unheralded pair of defensemen. I think they have maybe 2 points between them on the season, and yet they've been arguably the most consistent pair. And speaking of consistency and not in a good way, the power play sucks. Like I'm not going to, do the nice thing where it's like, well, it's not good. They had some looks that were better. And at this point, they got to try anything else. Mike Hoffman is the last line of defense. Not a good thing. Chris Weidman not working. You can see Jordan Harris can distribute the puck well. Arbor Jacki can shoot. Kaiden Guhle can do both. The time has come to
just put them there.
Give them the opportunity. I'm not asking to make it a permanent thing, but what do you have to lose? The power play is clicking along at 5% or something like that. It's so bad. And sorry, Jay, we do love you, but the Blue Jackets power play is the only one that's worse in the NHL at 0.
Give it a few games, and it's going to be.
Yeah, when do they play the Habs? Because I'm sure that's when that'll all change. I just want to see them try something new here. 5 forwards on the power play, great. Why are you trying that before just trying a different defenseman? It feels like an overcorrection to a problem they don't know how to solve yet. So there's options there, and why not? You're trying to figure out who can do what in this season. Rem Pitlick, probably not that guy in the power play. Mike Hoffman as the last line of defense, probably not that guy. Give him an opportunity and let him cook with something new back there, and it can't get worse. Hopefully,
just
anyways.
Once. Just put Guhle there, or Hair, or
just for a little
Jacki,
bit,
or anyone.
Just try it.
Anyone else? Me, you can put me there. I'll be fine with that. At least it'll be something different. I don't know how to skate.
Don't worry, neither does other people on the Habs. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. What's not fine though is that we've gone this far without answering a mailbag question. So that is, in fact, what we are going to do in just one moment. But first, betonline.net is your number one source for betting football and the start of the new basketball season. We're about to start the World Series. There's that as well. You're going to find all the latest player developments, team matchups, news, podcasts, and in-depth analysis on every single game. And as always, BetOnline remains your continued source for all your sports wagering information with live betting and up-to-the-minute scores for every sport out there. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all your favorite games and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right, Scott, are you ready for some mailbag questions?
I was born ready for mailbag questions one way or the other. I know we got a good chunk when we put out our thing. And as always, if you do want to send us mailbag questions, you can tweet us at LO_Canadiens or longer questions, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Or as always, drop them in the YouTube comments. Just do not be a jerk because the world has enough of those and we don't need more running around the comment sections. So, Laura, what do we have today in terms of mailbag questions?
So I just wanted to point out one of or shout out one of our listeners. We've got Rick Bengal, who has been a loyal listener and YouTube watcher for a long time, and sent us a picture of a dog, which we always appreciate. Please send us dog pictures. We're always happy for that, and also stories of how you became a Habs fan. And his dog's name is Red. It's a greyhound named Red for the Habs. And he sent us a picture of him as a child in a Habs jersey. So please do that. That is the kind of mail we love. We love questions because it helps drive our show. But we also really love mail about, whether you became a Habs fan. We love when people tell stories about when they came here. Maybe, you brought your dad here for the first time and it was a bonding experience. All of that stuff, or your kid. All of that kind of stuff. We love that kind of mail. So we've got from longtime listener and friend of the show, Simon J, sending us this interesting question, which I'm very excited for Scott to answer. Hey guys, what are the best, funniest, oldest, and most Terrian combinations for overtime that you can put together out of the current players on the Habs roster?
Oh, all right.
What's
Does
the
that
best?
include
Okay, let's do the best. What
the
is the
best
best
combination
3-on-3?
they can put out there, including people who are injured or just healthy right now?
Just everybody who's currently on the roster, whether they're on IR or not.
In overtime, you go and you put Matheson on the Mike Matheson on the blue line, Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield, and then follow that up with Kaiden Guhle, Sean Monahan, and Kirby Doc.
Love it. What's the funniest?
Out of the current roster, David Savard, Jonathan Kovacevic, and Michael Pezzetta as the starting to overtime. It's two dudes who can't skate and a guy who is known for hitting people in the face with his fists. So admittedly, I would like to see Michael Pezzetta in the lineup again at some point, but that is by far the funniest thing I can possibly think of. It's the slowest overtime you can imagine.
What is the oldest? I don't actually know who the oldest players on this roster are.
I want to say it's going to be Savard, Allen, and then Dodonov, I believe, is probably the oldest guy on the roster besides Allen and Savard. So you're going to have a goalie playing forward at that point if you want the oldest one. And the youngest one would be, I think it'd be Guhle, Slavkovsky, and then I want to say Jack-Eye would be the other young guy, the other youngest player they would have there, which is a wild thing to think about. So we have options at both ends of the spectrum for that.
And what is the most Terrian combination for OT that you can think of from the current roster?
Oh man. It would be probably Drouin, Dvorak, and then Savard. If Ben Sherratt were still here, it would be Ben Sherratt, but that was definitely a Dom Ducharme thing too. So the roster is decidedly un-Terrian for the most part because Terrian just kind of defaulted to Thomas Plekanec and Max Pacioretty with PK Subban or Andrei Markov, and that was his choice until
And then he yelled at them.
Yes, because it's 3-on-3 overtime and it's literally a coin flip if your shot goes wide. So, oh man, now I want to go back and like look at some of the line combinations Terrian would have thrown out in 3-on-3 overtime because they could not have been good.
Our good friend Mike Baranik has sent us a fun scenario. Pretend you are the general manager for the Habs, and the Chicago Blackhawks have just won the draft lottery, and you have the 7th overall pick. So the Canadiens, top 7. We said that they would probably get a top 7 pick, right? We're hoping for top 5.
Yes.
This is the Connor Bedard draft. Without any warning, Chicago approaches you and offers the 1st overall pick for Suzuki, Slavkovsky, and your 7th overall pick. Would you do it?
No.
It's Connor Bedard.
I understand that. And at the same time, you're giving up a top 10 pick in a very stacked draft, which right now I'm on Tankathon. Number 7 overall is Leo Carlson, who is very good in his own right. You are giving up your team captain and number 1 center, and then your previous number 1 overall pick. You're giving up a lot of first-round picks to move up for Connor Bedard, who is incredible. That's a lot to give up if you were a rebuild. If the Canadiens, if Nick Suzuki was exiting his prime and this was a team that wanted to make that splash and add that, yes. But the Canadiens right now aren't in the business of selling off a lot of assets in a way that I would be comfortable with. And that makes me uncomfortable because they don't have, yes, Connor Bedard could probably replace Nick Suzuki immediately, but it's just not a chance I want to take right now for the Canadiens, or would take right now, I should say.
I think I agree with you on that. I really do. I feel like it's you're giving up a lot.
Yeah, like it is admittedly a lot to potentially give up for you're hoping it's a good thing. And yeah, Connor Bedard's probably going to be a more sure bet than Uri Slafkovsky was. But at the same time, you're giving up so much that are you tilting this scale too much in one direction? And if I knew that, like, yeah, there's other pieces coming to that, or there's more that, like, Kirby Dach was confirmed to become a regular top 6 NHL center, or Christian Dvorak stepped up, or someone else like is guaranteed to step in and replace Nick Suzuki the year after, great. But without knowing that, I don't think I could actually pull the trigger on that trade.
I think that's the thing. It's like it's all your eggs in one basket, and that's the part that I'm a little bit uncomfortable with. We have some time for some of our YouTube questions, and then we're going to move a couple of them to the next segment. If anyone is wondering, I'm reading these questions because, again, we are locked on extremely tired. Usually the host will answer the questions, but this time the host is also asking the questions and putting the other person on the spot. Our friend Rick B. Mailbag question. Spencer Knight may be on the trade block in Florida. What would you give up for Spencer Knight?
My first question is, why is Spencer Knight on the trade block? Well, no, because Florida
makes weird decisions.
Like, I don't understand, like, why Florida Panthers.
It's like Florida team is like Florida man. Like, they just do things that you can't explain.
I mean, that's a good point, but like, is Sergei Bobrovsky suddenly that good that, like, you know, you're willing to trade away Spencer Knight? Like, who they have? Alex Lyon, Matt Guzda, Kirill Grezmak. Like, I don't see anyone in there that, like, I would happily, you know, give up something to get a quality NHL backup or potential starter in Spencer Knight there. I do think that's something that I don't know if it's a first round pick because he is not a proven starter. I am blown away that Florida has him on the trade block for any reason whatsoever. I would be willing to entertain that, though, assuming that they would also then probably move Jake Allen somewhere and get a haul in return for him, unless they're just swapping goalies then, which I might be okay with, despite Jake Allen's total professionalism here. But I'm absolutely gobsmacked that he would be on the trade block for the Florida Panthers right now.
So the answer to your question is, why is Spencer Knight on the trade block? That's the answer, Rick. And we have our Twitter questions and a couple more YouTube questions, and that's all in one moment. But first, you know, I have to tell you about SimpliSafe because the numbers don't lie. In the last decade, over 4 million people have chosen SimpliSafe Home Security to protect their home, and you don't earn the trust of that many people without doing something right. At SimpliSafe, your safety is the only thing that matters, and I know because I use SimpliSafe in my own home. They protect you with cutting-edge security technology powered by 24/7 professional monitoring agents who always have your back. And I love it because it knows what is the difference between a real threat and a threat in your home. And you know that it's protecting your home, your family, your safety, your valuables, everything. Honestly, it's a no-brainer if you want to protect your property. So all you got to do is customize the perfect system for your own home, just like we've done, in just a few minutes at simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl. Save 20% on your SimpliSafe security system when you sign up for an interactive monitoring plan and get your first month free. Visit simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl to learn more. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. All right, Scott, we have a question from longtime listener, friend of the show, Paul Bryan Show. We forgot to answer it last week. We had like a flurry of mailbag questions, and then we ran out of time, and then we tried to dig up all the old ones. Like I said, we're going to get it together in November. We promise. November is going to be, we're going to get back on track. And the question is, Seattle's mascot. Why? How long are they calling him Bowie or Bowie?
Buoy.
Buoy,
It's
right?
buoy,
It's
like the
buoy.
thing that floats in the water.
No, I know that's what they named it after, but I like haven't been listening, so obviously I don't know what they. I was like, everyone's mad about a mascot, but I haven't watched a single Seattle game. So
Everyone's mad about a mascot. What a change for hockey Twitter here. Jesus.
And how long does Buoy last in a cage match versus Gritty? Gritty wins all of them.
I mean, yeah, Gritty's going to win. I think people are underrating Buoy a little bit here because it's a monster from the sea, for God's sakes. Like, don't underestimate that. In a cage, yeah, Gritty's going to win because Gritty is absolutely insane. But you get in your body of water, and Bowie's going to beat Gritty with a rusty anchor that he dragged out of the Puget Sound. And you don't want that because I've seen it happen. It's gross. It's terrifying. My whole thing with this is people mad about a mascot. You do realize you are mad about a person in a costume, correct? It does not impact your life in any way, shape, or form. It's mainly for kids and for entertainment at a hockey game. Okay, I need everyone to realize it's not that deep. It's not that deep. I promise you.
That's a pun. That's a buoy pun. I know you think that, Scott, but I also know that the other NHL mascots are just some Gritty and they hate.
Well, yeah, because Gritty went viral. That's why. So like they can deal with it. It's fine. It's fine.
It's not like literally these are grown men in costumes that are jealous of another grown man in a costume, and that costume has a purple belly button. Like this is I'm 100% for real. Like this is true. This is real. Just ask any of the well-connected sources in the NHL. And I think they have a hate chat about him too.
That's just go to therapy. Go to therapy.
I can't reveal my sources, but
I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying
you'll have heard this on.
I'm just saying people need to go to therapy. Just stop it. All of you stop it and get help, please. I'm begging you.
I really wish I could show you the proof to our listeners, but it is 100% true. I cannot reveal my sources, but I've heard it on another podcast, which is why I'm reporting it as well. All right, real quick, KCD, who takes us on walks with him. It must be beautiful. Like the fall walks in the parks right now, like Montreal is gorgeous. It's been gorgeous for the last 2 weeks. If you could build an ultimate team by using 90s hockey superstars, who would make the cut?
5 Jaromir Jagrs and 1 Dominik Hasek. Can I do that? You didn't say I couldn't. If I actually had to do this, there would be a Gretzky, a Jagr, and a Pavel Bure on that list. And then on defense, you would have, oh man, I got to dip back here a little bit into the 90s. I want to say Nicklas Lidstrom, and I'd still pick Dominik Hasek on the back end, but oh man, there's so many players that I grew up watching whose names I cannot remember right now, and it's going to drive me nuts. You know what? 4 forwards. We're going to take Mario Lemieux as well from the 90s, and we're going to have Jagr, Lemieux, Gretzky, Bure, and then Nicklas Lidstrom with Dominik Hasek in net, and that is the team I am going with right now.
You know what's really cool is that there's a bunch of people I thought of that you didn't even mention. And I will build, let's do this. Let's ask our listeners, and I'm going to build a couple of teams myself and post them on Twitter, mostly because I want to move on to the next question, because it is, Scott, what is the best Pokemon starter of all time?
Of all time? Oh man. Like, all right. Are we talking aesthetically or are we talking usefulness?
Our friend JD from Locked On Sharks asked that question, so I hope that gives you some kind of context. That's literally, I read the question verbatim.
Aesthetically, it's always going to be Charizard. Charizard is always the coolest starter you could have picked. I, however, have a soft spot for Cyndaquil from Generation 2 of Pokemon. That's Gold, Silver, Crystal. Functionally, picking Piplup or Mudkip in Generation 3 or 4 is the best functional choice you can make early on, because eventually Piplup evolves all the way into Empoleon, who gets a Steel type and adds to its depth. And then Mudkip has a ground type, which helps prevent against electric attacks. If you are listening to me be a nerd here at 31 years old, How have you made it this far without realizing I have done this yet? Aesthetically, Cyndaquil and Charmander are always going to be favorites of mine. Shout out to Grookey from Gen 8 in Sword and Shield. Big fan as well.
I totally understood all the things that you said. I was totally listening for the last 2 minutes and understanding every single thing. Our friend Goalie Droid, what do you think it would take to fix the Habs organizational power play? Because even the Rockets power play is bad. Do we need to shake the PP coaches until something falls out?
Okay, I never want you to say the phrase "shake the PP coach" again. I
read it verbatim.
I understand, but anyways. This is a family.
Episode went off the rails despite my efforts to keep it. I was reading the questions verbatim.
This is a family show. My biggest thing is they should subscribe to our podcast and listen to us at least a little bit, a little tiny bit. So like, just try new things. The Rocket power play hasn't been bad. It's frustrating in that they can't get set up the way they want to, and they're not trying anything new. They're just kind of ramming against that wall over and over and over again. And it's just try literally anything else. That's all I'm asking you at this point.
Yeah, I think like my entire philosophy on the power play this season has been whatever it is you're doing, have you tried not doing that? That's literally it. That's all you need to do.
Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in again?
Essentially, that's exactly what we want them to do. Our friend Rock Smasha, both the Ducks and the Oilers AGMs were in the building against the Wild. What do you think might be cooking here? My bet is a 3-way trade to send Klingberg to Edmonton, 75% salary retained, as a sign and trade for Montreal. Allegedly, this almost happened before Monahan, for the Monahan trade. Sorry, Rock Smasha, I didn't read this question verbatim. I read this very messed up.
My thought with that is, where are they going to put another defenseman now? Is that Matheson and Edmondson are almost back. And unless they're planning on sending some of these young guys down to the AHL, like Harris hasn't deserved to really be sent down. Jack Guy's had a little bit of rough moments, but he hasn't really lost his spot. It kind of sends the wrong message that, hey, we want to bring this guy in instead. If I looking at that, I think I wouldn't be shocked if they were looking at someone like Christian Dvorak, with someone like Maxime Comtois going the other way. That's a name that's been thrown around as tied to Montreal for the last year and a half or so. And I can see the Canadiens doing that because Comtois might be a guy that just needs a change of scenery and he doesn't fit in with the Ducks anymore. And Dvorak fits their need. They need another guy down the middle to try and get to that next level. They might be looking at someone like a Sean Monahan or an Evgeny Dodonov, but I don't think this early in the season AGMs are there for rentals. I think they're looking for long-term solution pieces, and someone like Christian Dvorak, a Josh Anderson, hopefully it's Mike Hoffman, fits in that role a little bit.
Speaking of Comtois, Gino asks, Max Comtois and Kevin Shattenkirk. Kevin Shattenkirk is still in the league?
Yeah, the Habs. Somehow. I was shocked too.
Okay, so these two to the Habs for Hoffman, Jake Evans, and Matthias Norlinder. What do you think? I don't think so.
I was with you until you put Norlinder in there, and I think that the Habs aren't willing to give up on him just yet because Shattenkirk's washed. He's not good anymore. And I don't think Comtois has the clout to pull 3 players, 2 of which are bona fide NHLers and one who's on the fringe of doing that at this point. He doesn't
and 2 of them are young too.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, Evans just hit 25. So it's like he isn't that valuable that he needs to command that much in terms of return there. That Comtois could be just a straight swap. It could be draft picks for all I know. But he's not worth Evans and Hoffman and Norlinder. Evans and Hoffman, okay, maybe, but adding Norlinder in there makes it a no-go for me.
Ryan asks, simple question this time. Do you think the Habs should be in on Ethan Bear?
Yes. I know I just said, why are they doing this with defense? But Ethan Bear is someone that I'm really interested in who has not gotten a fair shake in Carolina and was very good in Edmonton. And I do think he'd be a fun add for the Canadiens. He's still young enough that he fits in with that timeline of guys they're developing, has NHL experience, and I would not be opposed to seeing Ethan Bear in the lineup for the Canadiens.
So, Chenandler Bong 76 on Twitter. On YouTube. There's a question that we missed from you, and yes, we do want you to repost it. But in the meantime, here are the questions that we didn't miss. 1. Watched the secret base video on the Senators' collapse, and I just realized that the Habs will have theirs in the future. Am I wrong here? Well, hopefully not in the near future.
I mean, Urinating Tree did one on the Canadian Stanley Cup and just everything that followed the year after that. And despite the name, when he does in-depth history looks, they're very, very good. I highly recommend his series on the Houston Oilers, and he combines humor and actual historical coverage very, very well. He's done a good one on Aaron Rodgers and the Packers playoff woes. I don't see it being the same way because the Senators were volatile with the way Eugene Melnyk ran the team. And that was different than the Canadiens, who just had a GM who wasn't as good as he thought he was. There's been a million Mark Bergevins in the NHL. Eugene Melnyk was an especially exceptional case to everything else in terms of ownership. He's akin to kind of what Dan Snyder is in the NHL or NFL, maybe not as bad as Snyder, but that level of volatility is what makes that secret base video so special for that. And thank you for reminding me to actually sit down and watch that.
The next question is, how many wins will the Habs get in their reverse retro jersey?
They won one game in them the previous year? They're playing 8 games in them? I'm going to say 3. And if I'm wrong, I'm going to be wrong, but
I think I'll say 4 and 4, to be honest. I'm not just doing that just to, for a happy middle. Like I think that the Canadiens in general at this point, like if they're even close to 500, we're going to be great. And then finally, unless there's a sudden loss of confidence in the player, the sense I'm getting is that Guhle, Harris, and Xhekaj will stick with the club the entire season, even when Matheson and Edmondson are back. What do you guys think?
My thought is they might get yo-yoed just in terms of cap space for stuff, depending on how things are going. But I don't anticipate any of them staying with the Rocket for any actual amount of time that's prominent. They might play a game or two just to keep fresh. There's a pause in the schedule. There is a bye week, I believe. I'm not sure how that lines up with the Rocket schedule, but they may ask, hey, do you want to go to the AHL to continue to play games, or do you want a rest? And they'll probably leave it up to them in that regard. Same for All-Star break or whatever it is. I can see them playing some games for the Rocket at that time, but it'll be of their choice, not because they were forced out of the lineup. And
that does it for our mailbag questions. Remember that you can email them to us at lockedoncanadians@gmail.com. You can also tweet them at LO_Canadians. You can leave them in the YouTube comments. Don't be a jerk. Also, if I don't answer that I kept it, or that I added it to the mailbag, please repost it because we probably missed it. We get a lot of comments and I have to wade through a lot of mean ones and delete them or block people. So please, if we don't ask your question, please ask it again. You can also follow us on Twitter at LO_Canadians. As I said, you can follow Scott at Scott Matla. You'll follow me at The Active Stick. Do not forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And on YouTube, don't forget to hit the little bell so that you get notified every time we go live. And like I said, in November, we're going to have it a lot more together than we do. So looking forward to that. And we will talk to you next week.